I still remember the way my mother's voice cracked when she said it, like she knew how impossible it sounded even as the words left her mouth. Please, Jason, for the sake of the family, you have to forgive them. Them. Not just her, them. It's funny how one sentence can get you clean through, even after you thought you had no blood left to lose. I was sitting in their living room, the one I grew up in, the smell of lemon polish clinging to the air like it always had. The sun was setting through the lace curtains, making everything look soft and golden, like a memory that wasn't mine anymore. My father sat silently next to her, hands folded tight, staring at the coffee table like he could bore a hole through it. I could barely get my mouth to work. You're asking me to forgive my wife and my brother? Mom flinched, like I'd slapped her. Dad finally spoke, gruff, low. It was a mistake, son. People make mistakes. Families survive worse. Worse. Worse than walking in on my wife, the mother of my 2 kids, tangled up with my own brother in my own damn house. I stood up too fast, my vision swam. The couch, the walls, their faces, everything tilted for a second. I gripped the edge of the chair until my knuckles turned white. Jason, sit down, Mom pleaded. We need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, I said. They made their choice. Dad rubbed his jaw, the way he always did when he was trying not to lose his temper. It's not that simple. You got the business, the kids, the business. I barked out a laugh. It was a horrible, broken sound. You want me to forgive them for the business? Mom reached out, her fingers brushing my arm. Baby, listen to me. Think about Emma and Noah. Think about what it'll do to them if you don't. I pulled away like her touch burned. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. Because that's what they wanted from me. Not just forgiveness. Oblivion. They wanted me to pretend it never happened. You know, people talk about betrayal like it's a knife in the back. They're wrong. It's slower than that. It's waking up every day and feeling like your ribs have been cracked open and you're walking around holding your own heart in your hands, praying no one else sees how broken you are. I left their house without another word. The drive home was a blur, streetlights smearing across the windshield, the radio turned off because even the noise was too much. At a red light, I slammed my fist into the steering wheel so hard the horn blared. The guy in the car next to me gave me a weird look. I didn't care. I wanted to scream. I wanted to smash everything. I wanted to disappear. But when I pulled up to the house, our house, all the lights were on. Through the window, I could see silhouettes moving. Laughing. Talking. Living. Like nothing had happened. Like they hadn't destroyed me. I sat there for a long time, watching from the dark. Watching my life keep spinning without me. The front door opened. And there she was. Melanie. My wife. The woman who promised to love me, to be faithful, to build a life with me. She stood on the porch, her arms wrapped around herself, looking out into the night like she could feel me somewhere out there. I hated her in that moment. And God help me, I still loved her too. That's the thing they never tell you about betrayal. It doesn't kill love. It just warps it. Turns it into something ugly and sharp that tears you apart from the inside. The next morning, I found myself back at my parents' house, like a fool. Maybe some part of me was still hoping they'd say, "You're right, Jason. You deserve better." Instead, they doubled down. "Jason," Dad said as soon as I walked in. "You have to think long-term. If you blow this up, everything falls apart. The business, the family." "I don't give a damn about the business." I snapped. Dad's face hardened. "It's not just the business. It's your kids. They need stability. You want them growing up bouncing between broken homes." Mom wrung her hands, eyes shiny with tears. "We made mistakes too, Jason. When we were young. Things happen. But you fight for your family. You don't just throw it away. Throw it away. Like I was the one giving up. Not the ones who lied. Not the ones who took everything we built and smashed it. Me." I sat down hard, my head in my hands. "Jason," Mom said softly, sitting next to me. Think about how much you have to lose. I thought about Emma's giggles when she ran into my arms after school. I thought about Noah's proud little face when he showed me the Lego tower he built. I thought about the business I'd spent the last 10 years growing, the same business my dad built from nothing, the one he was ready to hand over to me. And I thought about Melanie's arms around my brother. The way she whispered his name like it belonged to her. "You're asking me to live a lie," I whispered. Dad leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "No. We're asking you to forgive." "But he's my brother," I said, my voice cracking. "And she's your wife," Mom said, tears slipping down her cheeks. "And they're your children." I closed my eyes. And for one terrible second, I imagined it. Staying. Pretending. Smiling at Christmas dinners. Sleeping next to her every night, wondering if she was thinking about him. Looking my brother in the eye, pretending I didn't want to punch him into the ground. "How long?" I asked. My voice was so low I barely recognized it. Mom hesitated. Dad looked away. "How long?" I said again. Mom finally spoke. "A few months. It's been over for a while now, Jason." They ended it. A few months. While I was working overtime to build a future for us. While I was planning our 10th anniversary trip. A few months. I stood up slowly. "Jason," Mom started. I shook my head. "I need time," I said. Dad exhaled like he was relieved. Mom smiled through her tears. But inside, I felt something cold and sharp settle into place. Because I knew something they didn't. Time wasn't going to heal this. Time was going to burn it deeper into my bones. And the person who walked out of that house wasn't the same man who walked in. The next few days blurred together, like a dream I couldn't wake up from. I moved into a cheap motel on the edge of town, one of those places that smelled like old smoke no matter how hard they tried to cover it up with fake lemon cleaner. The walls were thin. I could hear the couple next door fighting, their voices bleeding through the drywall, angry and raw. I didn't sleep much. Mostly, I just sat there on the bed, staring at my phone. Melanie called. She texted. She left voicemails, begging me to talk, to come home, to work through this. I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because every time her name lit up my screen, all I could see was the image burned into my brain, her hands tangled in Ethan's hair, her mouth pressed against his like he was the only man in the world. My brother. God, it was like a sickness. The memory looped over and over, a wound I kept picking at until it bled fresh every time. On the third day, Mom showed up at the motel. I heard the knock and ignored it at first. Figured it was housekeeping. But the knocking didn't stop, soft, steady, insistent. Finally, I opened the door. She stood there, holding a grocery bag like some kind of peace offering. "I brought you some things," she said quietly. "Sandwiches. Clean shirts. Thought you might need them." I stepped aside wordlessly. She came in, looking around like the place physically hurt her to see. Set the bag on the dresser. Sat on the only chair in the room, smoothing her skirt nervously. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, she said, "Melanie's not eating. She looks like a ghost." I didn't respond. "And Ethan, he's miserable, Jason. He's punishing himself." A bitter laugh escaped me. "Good." Mom flinched. "You don't mean that." "The hell I don't." She sighed, pressing her fingers against her temples. "You boys were so close once." "Yeah," I said. "We were. And maybe that was what hurt the most. He wasn't just my brother. He was my best friend. My partner in every stupid adventure, every bad decision, every secret we kept from our parents growing up. I trusted him like I trusted my own heartbeat. And he threw it away." Mom leaned forward, her voice low, urgent. "Jason, please. I know you're hurting. I know you're angry. But you can come back from this. People survive worse. Families survive worse. You keep saying that," I said. "But you never tell me how." She looked at me for a long time, like she was trying to decide if I could handle the truth. Finally, she said, "Your father and I, we almost didn't make it." I stared at her. "What are you talking about?" She folded her hands tightly in her lap. "Before you were born, there was someone else. Your dad, he made a mistake." The room tilted slightly, like the floor wasn't as steady as it used to be. "I forgave him," she whispered. "Because I loved him. Because I loved what we built together. And because I knew he loved me too, even when he was too stupid to see it." I shook my head. "That's not the same. Isn't it?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's fair. But sometimes love, real love, means choosing to stay even when everything inside you wants to run." After she left, I sat there in the dark for a long time. Thinking. Turning it over and over in my head until it felt like I was scraping the inside of my skull raw. Was that what love really was? Not the fairy tale. Not the fireworks. But the ugly, brutal choice to keep walking toward someone even after they shattered you. I didn't know. All I knew was that I missed my kids so bad it felt like a physical ache in my chest. I missed Noah's little dinosaur drawings. I missed Emma's bedtime stories. And somewhere, deep down, buried under all the rage and betrayal, I missed her too. Melanie. The girl who used to laugh at all my dumb jokes. The girl who made Christmas cookies from scratch just because she knew I loved them. The girl who looked at me like I was the only man on earth. Had that all been a lie? Or had she been telling herself it wasn't, until the truth became too heavy to hide? On the fourth night, I finally answered her call. I don't know why. Maybe I just needed to hear her voice. Maybe I wanted to punish her by making her hear mine, cold, broken. "Jason," she breathed when I picked up. "Oh, God, thank you for answering." I didn't say anything. She filled the silence, words tumbling out too fast. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know sorry isn't enough, but I am. I am, Jason. I was lonely. You were working so much. I felt like I didn't exist anymore. And Ethan, he was just there, and I was so weak, and I hate myself for it, and I never stopped loving you. Not for 1 second. I closed my eyes, leaning my head back against the wall. I never meant to hurt you," she whispered. "Please believe that. It was never about you not being enough. It was about me being selfish and stupid and lost." The anger flared up hot in my chest. "You broke us," I said, my voice shaking. "You broke everything." "I know," she said. "I know." There was a long silence. Finally, she said, Can we meet? Please? Just talk." I wanted to say no. I wanted to hang up and throw the phone across the room. But instead, I heard myself say, "Tomorrow. Noon. At the park. Where we used to take the kids." "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. Thank you. Thank you." I hung up before she could say anything else. I didn't need thanks. I needed answers. And maybe, deep down, I needed to see for myself whether there was anything left to save. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the window, watching the highway in the distance, headlights flashing past like tiny shooting stars. And I thought about choices. About the kind of man I wanted to be. The kind of father my kids needed. The kind of brother I used to be. Tomorrow, I'd see her. Tomorrow, I'd find out if forgiveness was even possible. Or if some wounds were meant to bleed forever. I got to the park 15 minutes early. It was the same place where Melanie and I used to bring Emma and Noah on Saturday mornings, pushing them on the swings, chasing them through piles of fallen leaves, sharing ice cream cones when the sun got too hot. It was supposed to be our little sanctuary. Now, it felt like sacred ground that had been trampled. I sat on the old wooden bench by the duck pond, hands shoved deep into my jacket pockets, the cold biting through the thin fabric. It was a gray day, the sky heavy with clouds, and the few people around seemed distant, blurry, like background characters in a life that didn't belong to me anymore. Every sound was too loud, the creak of the swings, the distant bark of a dog, the crunch of gravel under sneakers. And then I heard it. The soft tap of cautious footsteps. I didn't have to look up to know it was her. "Jason," she said, her voice barely more than a whisper. I kept my eyes on the pond, where two ducks floated lazily across the surface, undisturbed by the human drama playing out on the shore. She sat down at the opposite end of the bench, leaving a chasm of empty space between us. For a long time, neither of us said a word. Finally, I turned to look at her. She looked smaller somehow. Paler. Like the guilt had hollowed her out from the inside. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore the old blue hoodie she used to steal from my closet, the one that always hung down past her fingertips. It hit me hard, unexpectedly, how familiar she still looked. How much my body still recognized her even when my mind screamed to run. She opened her mouth, closed it again. Finally, she said, "I don't know where to start." "Start with why," I said. My voice was rough, unfamiliar even to my own ears. "Why him?" Tears welled up in her eyes immediately. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I swear. It wasn't like we planned it. It was just one night at first. After Emma's birthday party. You stayed late at the shop, remember? Ethan and I cleaned up. We were both drunk. And stupid. And hurting." I closed my eyes, a wave of nausea rolling through me. "I felt invisible, Jason," she whispered. "Like I didn't matter anymore. You were working 70-hour weeks. You barely looked at me. I know that's not an excuse. God, I know it's not. But it's the truth." I opened my eyes and stared at her. "So your solution was to sleep with my brother?" "I didn't choose it," she said desperately. "It just happened. And once it did, I hated myself for it. But it kept happening. Because we were both broken and hurting, and it was wrong. It was so wrong." I let her words hang there. Thick. Heavy. They didn't fix anything. They didn't soothe the bleeding place inside me. But hearing the rawness in her voice, the absolute wreck she'd become, it stirred something. Something ugly and human. "Do you love him?" I asked. The question sliced through the space between us like a blade. She shook her head violently. "No. No. I never did. I love you, Jason. Only you." "Funny way of showing it," I muttered. Tears spilled over onto her cheeks. She wiped them away with the sleeves of my hoodie, just like she used to when she cried over sad movies or stupid commercials. "I ended it," she said. "Months ago. I told him it was over. That I wouldn't betray you again." "Why didn't you tell me then?" "Because I was scared," she whispered. "I thought if I buried it deep enough, maybe it would go away. Maybe we could get back to what we had. I was a coward." A breeze picked up, scattering dead leaves across the path. Somewhere nearby, a child laughed, oblivious to the way the world could fall apart in an instant. I stood up, shoving my hands deeper into my pockets. Melanie looked up at me, her face crumpling. "Jason," she said brokenly. "Please. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm begging you. Don't throw our life away. Our life." I looked down at her, this woman who had given me 2 beautiful children, shared 1,000 small memories with me, and still torn me in half without a second thought. "I need to think," I said finally. "I need space." She nodded, a sob caught in her throat. "I'll wait," she said. "As long as it takes." I turned and walked away, feeling her eyes on my back the whole time. Each step felt like wading through quicksand. Because the truth was, I didn't know if forgiveness was possible. And worse, I didn't know if I even wanted it to be. Later that night, Ethan showed up at the motel. I heard the knock and knew, somehow, instinctively, it was him. For a long time, I just sat there on the bed, staring at the door. Part of me wanted to pretend I wasn't there. Part of me wanted to rip the door open and beat him bloody. In the end, I did neither. I opened the door and leaned against the frame, blocking his way in. He stood there, hands shoved deep into his jacket pockets, his face haggard and haunted. "Hey," he said. I didn't respond. He shifted awkwardly. "Can I come in?" "No," I said flatly. He nodded like he expected that. I needed to say I'm sorry," he said. His voice cracked. "I know that doesn't mean much. But I am. I'm so sorry, Jace." "Don't call me that," I snapped. He winced like I'd slapped him. "I wasn't thinking," he said. I was angry. At myself. At the world. You always had everything together, and I was just screwing up left and right. And she was there, and I was weak, Anne. "You were jealous," I said. He flinched. "Yeah." Silence stretched between us, thick and choking. "I never wanted to hurt you," he said. "You're my brother. You're my best friend. And I destroyed everything." I stared at him, feeling something shift inside me. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But a terrible, aching sadness. Because he was right. He had destroyed everything. And so had I. In my own way, by letting the distance grow between me and Melanie, by burying myself in work and forgetting to be present. We were all guilty. Just in different ways. "I need time," I said finally. Ethan nodded. His eyes shone in the dim light. "You take all the time you need," he said. "I'll be here. When, if, you ever want to talk." He turned and walked away into the night. I closed the door and leaned my forehead against it, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might crack my ribs. Because for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I realized something terrifying. Forgiveness wasn't about them. It was about me. About who I wanted to be when the smoke cleared. And I wasn't sure yet if I was strong enough to be the man they were asking me to be. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. Not that I slept much, just a few restless hours of tossing and turning, punctuated by dreams that felt more like warnings than rest. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them, Melanie and Ethan, locked in that kiss, and it tore at me all over again. Today, I had to push all that aside. Because today, I was going to see my kids. No matter what happened between the adults, Noah and Emma were innocent. They didn't deserve to be caught in the middle of our wreckage. I owed them more than silence and distance. Melanie agreed to bring them to the park around 10. I got there early again, pacing the walking path like a caged animal, rehearsing what I would say. Would they ask why I hadn't been home? Would they sense the fracture between their parents? How much did kids really understand when the world started falling apart? I didn't know. But I knew I had to be strong. For them. When they finally arrived, I saw them running ahead of Melanie, two little blurs of color and laughter, completely unaware of the storm raging around them. "Daddy!" Noah shouted, barreling into me at full speed. I dropped to one knee just in time to catch him, holding him close, breathing in the smell of peanut butter and grass and something purely, painfully innocent. Emma followed, a little slower, more cautious. At 9, she was already picking up on things adults thought they were hiding. I pulled her into the hug too, squeezing them both so tight I thought I might never let go. "Missed you, buddy," I said into Noah's messy hair. "Missed you too, Daddy," he mumbled. Emma stayed quiet, studying me with wide, searching eyes. Melanie stood a few feet away, arms crossed over her chest, looking like she was holding herself together by sheer force of will. "Can we go to the playground?" Noah asked, bouncing on the balls of his feet. "Yeah, champ. Go ahead." They raced off, and I sat on the bench, watching them. Melanie sat down too, leaving that familiar, aching space between us. "I didn't tell them anything," she said quietly. "I just said you were working and needed a few days." I nodded stiffly. "Thank you." We sat there in uneasy silence, watching our children laugh and play like nothing had changed. "I don't want to hurt them," Melanie said, her voice cracking. "I don't want them to grow up thinking love is disposable. That families just fall apart." A bitter taste filled my mouth. "Maybe you should have thought of that sooner." She flinched, looking away. For a moment, I almost felt bad. Almost. But then I remembered the nights I lay awake in the motel, feeling like my chest might split open from the weight of it all. "Daddy, watch this!" Noah shouted from the swings. I forced a smile and waved. He laughed, kicking higher into the sky. It hit me then, the devastating reality of what was at stake. It wasn't just about me. Or Melanie. Or Ethan. It was about them. These two little souls who still believed the world was safe and solid and good. And I couldn't be the one to shatter that for them. No matter how much I was hurting. After an hour, Melanie took the kids home. We made vague plans to do it again, no promises, just a hopeful suggestion hanging awkwardly between us. I watched them leave, Emma looking back over her shoulder one last time, her eyes full of questions she didn't know how to ask yet. And I sat there alone, feeling like the ground had shifted under me and I was still trying to find my footing. That's when I heard someone clear their throat behind me. I turned, and there was my father. He looked older than I remembered. Or maybe just more tired. "Mind if I sit?" he asked. I shrugged, and he lowered himself onto the bench beside me with a grunt. For a while, we just watched the empty swings sway in the breeze. "I heard you've been staying at the motel," he said. I said nothing. "Your mother's worried sick," he added. I snorted. "Figures." He glanced at me, his eyes sharp and steady. "She told you, didn't she? About you?" I said. "Yeah." He nodded slowly. I was young. Stupid. Thought I could have it all and not pay the price. I looked at him, really looked at him, the lines carved deep around his mouth, the graying hair at his temples. "You ever regret it?" I asked. He didn't hesitate. "Every damn day." "But you stayed," I said bitterly. "Mom forgave you." Life went on. He gave a dry chuckle. "That's the thing they don't tell you about forgiveness. It's not a one-time thing. It's a choice you make every day. Some days it's easy. Most days it's not." I stared at the ground, kicking at a stray rock with the toe of my shoe. "I don't know if I can do it," I said quietly. "I don't even know if I want to." "You think forgiving her means saying what she did was okay," Dad said. "It doesn't. It just means you're not going to let it define you." I swallowed hard. "What if I forgive her and she does it again?" He looked at me with a sadness that cut deeper than any words. "Then you'll know you tried. You'll know you were the better man." I closed my eyes against the sting. "Or," he added, softer now, "you'll realize some things can't be fixed. And that's okay too." He stood up, stretching his back with a groan. "For what it's worth," he said, "I think you're stronger than you know." He clapped a hand on my shoulder, heavy, solid, and then walked away, leaving me there with more questions than answers. That night, back at the motel, I sat at the little desk, staring at a blank notepad. And I made two lists. On one side, all the reasons to leave. All the betrayal. All the broken promises. On the other side, two little faces, smiling up at me. Christmas mornings. Bedtime stories. A life built together, brick by brick. The left side was longer. But the right side felt heavier. And I realized something that scared the hell out of me. Maybe love wasn't about keeping score. Maybe love was about deciding what mattered more, the mistakes or the memories. I didn't have my answer yet. But I knew one thing. Whatever choice I made next, it had to be mine. Not my parents'. Not Melanie's. Not even my kids'. Mine. And I would have to live with it for the rest of my life. I didn't plan to see Ethan again. Not so soon, anyway. But life has a way of forcing things before you're ready. It was a few days later. I was driving back from a late night at the shop, trying to lose myself in fixing busted coffee machines and water-damaged laptops, when my phone buzzed. It was Ethan. "Come to the house," the text said. "Please. It's important." For a long minute, I just sat there in the car, engine humming beneath me, the screen glowing in the dark. Every instinct screamed to ignore it. To drive away, to leave him twisting in the wind like he deserved. But something stopped me. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the damn seed of doubt my father had planted. Maybe, deep down, I knew running wasn't going to fix anything. With a sigh, I threw the car into gear and headed toward the house we both grew up in. The porch light was on. That same peeling white paint on the railing. The same rusty wind chime creaking in the breeze. It was like walking back in time, back to a place where things hadn't yet fallen apart. I knocked once, out of habit, then pushed the door open. Ethan was sitting on the couch, nursing a beer, a second one, unopened, sitting on the coffee table like an offering. He looked up, and I saw it again, that raw, hollowed-out look. Like he hadn't slept in days. "Hey," he said. I said nothing. Just stood there, arms crossed, daring him to say something worth the drive. He ran a hand through his hair, took a shaky breath. "I need to tell you the truth," he said. I narrowed my eyes. "Thought you already did." He shook his head. "Not the whole truth." The anger flared up instantly, that old, familiar fire. "More lies," I said bitterly. "You really think there's anything left to say that could make this better?" "No," he said quietly. "But you deserve to know. All of it." Something in his voice stopped me. It wasn't defensive. It wasn't pleading. It was broken. "I was jealous of you long before Melanie," he said, staring down at the bottle in his hands. "Hell, probably my whole life." I stayed silent. "You were the golden boy," he went on. "Good grades. Football star. Dad's favorite. Mom's pride. Me. I was the screw-up. Always, Ethan, why can't you be more like Jason?" He laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. "So when you started dating Melanie in college, I told myself it didn't matter. That I'd find someone better. That I'd have something you didn't." He looked up at me then, and there was no hiding the shame in his eyes. "But I never stopped wanting what you had." The words hung heavy between us. "It wasn't about her," he said. "Not really. It was about you. About beating you at something. Even just once." The air went cold. "So you slept with my wife too, even the score?" I said, my voice low and dangerous. He flinched. "No. God, no. I cared about her. I did. But it wasn't love. It was desperation. Envy. Weakness." I swallowed hard against the bile rising in my throat. Part of me wanted to punch him. Part of me wanted to walk out and never look back. But another part, a part one hated, recognized the truth in his voice. Because I knew that feeling too. Not the jealousy. Not exactly. But the hunger to feel seen. To matter. We were more alike than I wanted to admit. "I lost everything," Ethan said, his voice cracking. "Melanie. You. The family. My own damn self-respect." He wiped at his eyes roughly, angrily. "And I deserve it," he said. "I deserve to be the villain. I'll carry that. But I just needed you to know it wasn't about love. It wasn't about wanting to take your life away from you. It was about me being a selfish, broken idiot who didn't know how to ask for help." Silence stretched between us. I stared at him, this man who used to be my best friend, my first protector, my biggest rival. And for the first time, I didn't just see the betrayal. I saw the wound underneath it. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said finally. He nodded. "I know. But I don't hate you," I added, surprising even myself. His head jerked up, eyes wide. "I should," I said. "God knows, you gave me every reason to. But hate, it just eats you alive. And I'm already broken enough." He let out a shaky breath, something like relief flickering across his face. "I'm not asking you to forget," he said. "I'm not even asking you to be my brother again. I'm sorry, Jace. Truly." I nodded slowly. Then, for the first time in months, I picked up the second beer and cracked it open. A silent truce. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe, the beginning of something new. We sat there for a long time, not talking, just existing in the same space. Two wounded men trying to remember how to be human again. And for the first time in what felt like forever, the weight on my chest felt just a little bit lighter. Not gone. Not even close. but lighter. Driving back to the motel, I thought about something Dad had said. Forgiveness isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about setting yourself free. Maybe that was true. Maybe forgiveness wasn't about who deserved it. Maybe it was about who I wanted to be. Did I want to be the man who spent the rest of his life bleeding from old wounds? Or the man who found a way to live again, even with the scars? I didn't have the answer yet. But for the first time, I was willing to ask the question. When I got back to the motel, my phone buzzed again. It was Melanie. "The kids are asking for you. Can we meet tomorrow?" I stared at the screen, feeling the old familiar ache. There was no simple path forward. No magic fix. But maybe there was a path. Somewhere between anger and forgiveness. Between grief and hope. I texted back, "Okay. Tomorrow." And for the first time in a long time, when I turned off the light, the darkness didn't feel so suffocating. It just felt quiet. And I slept. Really slept. The next day was colder than usual for early fall. The kind of sharp, restless cold that makes you feel like the world is holding its breath, waiting for something to break. I pulled into the driveway of our old house, my house, feeling like a stranger stepping onto someone else's front porch. The kids were already on the lawn when I arrived. Noah was kicking a soccer ball against the garage door, while Emma sat on the swing, her book forgotten in her lap, staring off into the distance. Melanie stood on the porch, arms wrapped tightly around herself, like she could hold her world together if she just squeezed hard enough. For a second, I just sat there in the car, hands gripping the steering wheel. I could still turn around. Still choose the easier pain of absence over the brutal, complicated work of staying. But then Noah spotted me. "Daddy," he yelled, and the decision was made for me. He ran full tilt toward the car. Emma followed more slowly, but there was hope in her steps too, tentative, fragile hope, but hope all the same. I got out just in time to catch Noah as he slammed into me. "You came," he said, his face bright. I hugged him tight. "Of course I came, buddy." Emma hovered a few feet away, twisting her fingers nervously. I knelt down to her level. "Hey, Em," I said softly. She hesitated, then threw her arms around my neck. I held them both, feeling their small hearts hammering against mine, and something deep inside me cracked open, something I didn't even know I'd locked away. Whatever happened between me and Melanie. These kids needed me. And I needed them. After a few minutes, Melanie approached cautiously. "Hey," she said, her voice thin. "Hey." We stood there awkwardly, the kids between us, a broken family trying to remember how to move. "I thought maybe we could have lunch together," she said. "Like, old times." I nodded stiffly. "Okay." The kids hooped like it was Christmas morning, and for a moment, their excitement washed over the tension like a bomb. Maybe we could do this. At least for today. Inside, the house smelled the same, lemon cleaner and something warm baking in the oven. The table was set. Noah dragged me by the hand to my old chair, the one at the head of the table, and insisted I sit there. Emma sat to my right, Noah to my left, and Melanie across from me. It felt wrong and right at the same time. Like stepping into a memory you know has already ended. We ate in fits and starts, awkward conversation broken up by Noah's jokes and Emma's careful observations about school projects. I caught Melanie watching me more than once, eyes shining with unshed tears she never let fall. After lunch, Noah wanted to show me his new science project, and Emma wanted help with a story she was writing for class. We spread out on the living room floor, books and crayons and cardboard volcano models everywhere. And for a little while, it felt almost normal. Almost. But under the surface, I could feel Melanie's gaze, feel the tension in the air, like we were all waiting for the other shoe to drop. And eventually, it did. "Daddy?" Emma asked, twirling a crayon between her fingers. "Yeah, sweetheart. Are you moving back home?" The question hung there, sharp and innocent. Melanie froze. Noah stopped coloring. I opened my mouth, and for the first time in my life, I didn't know what to say to my daughter. I swallowed hard. "I'm not sure yet, honey." Emma's face crumpled, just a little. Not a tantrum. Not a breakdown. Just a quiet, shattering kind of sadness that hurt more than any screaming ever could. You love us, Noah said urgently. Right. I pulled them both into my arms. More than anything in the whole world, I said fiercely. And Mommy? Emma whispered. I closed my eyes. The million-dollar question. Did I still love Melanie? Could I? I thought about all the good years. The late nights with newborns. The lazy Sundays. The way she used to laugh at my terrible jokes. And then I thought about the betrayal. The lies. The kiss I couldn't unsee. My chest ached under the weight of it all. I'm trying, I said finally. I'm trying to figure it all out. After the kids went outside to play, Melanie sat down across from me on the couch. Her hands trembled slightly in her lap. I never wanted to hurt them, she said, her voice raw. I never wanted to hurt you. I stared at the worn patch in the carpet by her foot. But you did. I know. Her voice cracked. I live with it every single day. She hesitated, then pulled something from her pocket. A small, crumpled piece of paper. I started writing you a letter, she said. Weeks ago. I never finished it. She handed it to me. I took it reluctantly, unfolding the paper. Her handwriting, the same loops and curls that signed our mortgage papers and birthday cards, spelled out just 3 lines. I am sorry. I was weak. You didn't deserve it. Simple. Brutal. True. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then Melanie whispered, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know I don't have the right. But Jason, please don't punish the kids for my mistakes. That broke something in me. Because deep down, I knew she was right. I could leave. I could cut her out of my life. But my kids would still wake up every day wondering why Daddy wasn't there to tuck them in. Wondering if love could just disappear. I'm not ready, I said, my voice hoarse. I don't know if I'll ever be ready. Tears slipped down her cheeks, silent and steady. I understand. But I'll be here for them, I added. No matter what happens between us. A small, broken smile tugged at her mouth. That's all I can ask. We sat there, not touching, not pretending. Just 2 people sitting in the wreckage of what they built together, trying to figure out if anything could still be salvaged. As I left that night, Noah and Emma tackled me at the door with hugs so fierce they nearly knocked me over. I love you, Daddy. Noah shouted. Emma didn't say anything. She just squeezed my hand tight, as if anchoring herself to me. And something shifted inside me. I didn't know what the future looked like. I didn't know if Melanie and I could ever find our way back. But I knew this. I wasn't walking away. Not from them. Not from myself. Not anymore. It was Mom who called the meeting. Not Dad. Not Ethan. Not even Melanie. Mom. Which meant it was serious. She texted me 2 days after my lunch with the kids. Sunday dinner. Everyone. Please come. It's important. No explanation. No pleading. Just that simple request. And somehow, I knew I couldn't say no. Sunday came fast. The drive to my parents' house felt longer than it ever had, even though I knew every pothole and curve by heart. When I pulled up, the driveway was already full, Ethan's truck, Melanie's SUV, even my dad's old beat-up sedan that he refused to replace. I sat there for a minute, gripping the steering wheel, breathing in and out. You're doing this for the kids, I reminded myself. For yourself. Then I killed the engine and went inside. The smell of roast beef and garlic mashed potatoes hit me immediately, my mother's signature peace offering. Everyone was already in the dining room. Dad at the head of the table, looking grim. Mom bustling with plates, trying too hard to look cheerful. Melanie sitting stiffly next to an empty chair, mine. Ethan across from her, shoulders hunched like he wanted to disappear. The kids were at the little side table by the window, coloring. They waved at me, and my heart squeezed painfully. I forced myself to smile back and took my seat. Dinner was awkward. Polite conversation about the weather, About Noah's science project and Emma's reading competition. Not a word about the real reason we were here. Finally, after dessert, homemade apple pie that none of us touched, Mom set down her fork and cleared her throat. I asked you all here because this family can't keep living in pieces, she said, her voice trembling slightly. No one spoke. She looked at me first. Then Melanie. Then Ethan. I'm not pretending what happened isn't terrible, she said. It is. It broke my heart too. But I can't stand watching it break all of you. Dad cleared his throat, that old signal he was about to speak. We built this family with our own hands, he said gruffly. And we're damn proud of it. Mistakes or no mistakes. His eyes pinned me, hard. But a family's not just about who's right and who's wrong. It's about who sticks. I swallowed against the lump rising in my throat. I'm not walking away from the kids, I said quietly. I know, Mom said. But what about the rest? The rest. The mess. The betrayal. The broken trust. The bleeding thing none of us wanted to look directly at. Ethan shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I told Jason everything, he said suddenly. The real reason it happened. Dad frowned. Melanie looked down at her lap, her cheeks burning red. You did? Mom asked softly. I nodded once. Good, she said. It's a start. Then, like she had been waiting for this moment, Mom leaned forward. There's something you don't know, she said, looking at me. The room seemed to shrink. When you were in college, things weren't as perfect between you and Melanie as you thought, she said carefully. Melanie flinched. I stiffened. What are you talking about? I asked, my voice sharp. Mom sighed. You two were so young. So overwhelmed. Remember that first year? The fighting. The time you moved back home for a month. I remembered. I remembered the endless arguments. The slammed doors. The bitter silences. I remember, I said cautiously. Mom nodded. Melanie came to me once. She was scared. She said she thought you didn't love her anymore. That maybe you never had. My blood ran cold. Melanie still didn't look up. You were pulling away from her even back then, Mom said gently. Working late. Going out with friends. She was lonely. She was hurting. I stared at Melanie, stunned. You never told me, I said. Tears slid silently down her face. I tried, she whispered. But every time I brought it up, you got so angry. Or you'd promised to do better, but nothing ever really changed. My heart thundered painfully against my ribs. You're blaming me? I said hoarsely. No, she said quickly. I made my choices. Terrible choices. But it wasn't just out of nowhere. It was years of feeling second to your career, your ambitions, your absence. I shook my head, trying to make sense of it. I was trying to build a life for us, I said. I know, she said. But somewhere along the way, we stopped being us. The truth hit me like a fist to the gut. Because deep down, I knew she wasn't lying. I remembered the missed anniversaries. The half-hearted apologies. The way I had assumed she would just be there, no matter how far I drifted. None of it excused what she had done. Not even close. But it made the story more complicated. Messier. More human. Ethan spoke up then, his voice rough. I should have seen it, he said. I should have helped. Not made it worse. Dad looked at us all, his face stern. You kids forgot the most important thing, he said. Love isn't just about feeling good. It's about doing the work. Even when it's hard. Especially then. He pushed back from the table. And forgiveness, he added, isn't a one-time thing. It's a choice you make every damn day. We sat there in heavy silence. The weight of years of mistakes settling over us like dust. I didn't know what forgiveness looked like. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I knew this. The story of our family wasn't just about betrayal. It was about loneliness. Pride. Fear. Missteps so small they didn't seem dangerous until the cracks finally gave way. After a while, Mom stood and started clearing plates like it was any other Sunday. The spell was broken. Ethan got up to help. Melanie took the kids outside for some air. And I sat there alone at the table, staring at the empty pie plates, the crumpled napkins, the half-drunk glasses of wine. I thought about the years I'd spent believing love was bulletproof, untouchable. I thought about how easy it was to forget to water the garden when you believed it would grow without you. And I thought about the faces of my children, so hopeful, so desperate for something solid to hold on to. Maybe forgiveness wasn't a moment. Maybe it was a process. A daily battle against bitterness. A choice to believe that people were more than the worst thing they'd ever done. I didn't know if I could make that choice yet. But for the first time, I wanted to try. For them. For me. For the broken, messy, stubborn thing we still called family. The next few days felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. Every step forward felt dangerous. Every thought pulled me back toward safety. Toward anger. Toward blame. Toward the cold comfort of staying hurt. But there was this voice inside me, small but steady, that kept whispering. You have a choice. Not an obligation. Not a surrender. A choice. One evening, I found myself parked outside the house again. Melanie's house. Our house. The lights were on. Curtains open. Through the window, I could see Emma curled up on the couch, reading. Noah building some kind of Lego fortress on the coffee table. Melanie moved through the room quietly, picking up stray toys, smoothing Noah's hair as she passed. The picture of a life I had once known by heart. A life that had gone on without me. I sat there for a long time. Just watching. Remembering. Grieving. Hoping. And when I finally stepped out of the car, I wasn't sure which part of me was leading, the broken one or the brave one. Maybe both. Melanie opened the door before I could knock. She looked surprised. Hopeful. Terrified. Hey, I said. Hey. The kids heard my voice and came running. Daddy. Noah barreled into me first, Emma right behind him. Their joy was so pure it almost hurt. I crouched down, pulling them into a hug so tight I never wanted to let go. When I finally stood up, Melanie was still there, hands nervously twisting the hem of her sweater. I met her eyes. Can we talk? She nodded quickly. Of course. We settled in the living room after putting the kids to bed. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I've been thinking, I began, my voice rough. About everything. She waited, hands clasped tightly in her lap. I'm still angry, I said. I still wake up some mornings and want to scream. Some days, I don't know if I'll ever be able to look at you and not see it. Melanie flinched, but didn't interrupt. But, I continued, I also see two kids who deserve better than parents who can't even be in the same room. Tears welled in her eyes. I see a woman who, for all her mistakes, was once my best friend. Her breath caught. And I see a man, I said, my voice breaking, who's been so busy being hurt that he forgot to ask himself what he actually wants. She covered her mouth with her hand, trying to stifle a sob. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. I can't promise I'll ever forget, I said. I can't promise it'll ever be the same. She nodded rapidly, tears streaming down her cheeks. I don't expect that, she whispered. But I can promise this, I said. I'm not giving up on being their father. And I'm not giving up on myself. She wiped her eyes, breathing shakily. What does that mean? She asked. I took a long breath. It means I'm willing to try, I said quietly. One day at a time. One step at a time. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was full. Heavy. Sacred. Melanie let out a sob, not of sadness, but of pure, raw relief. She came closer, hesitantly, like she thought she might scare me off. I want to try too, she said brokenly. Whatever it takes. However long you need. I nodded. We're not doing this for the business, I said. Not for appearances. Not even for the kids. She blinked, confused. We're doing this, I said, because deep down, there's still something here worth fighting for. And I meant it. Maybe it wasn't the fairy tale anymore. Maybe it was something rougher. More scarred. But maybe that made it stronger, too. Because real love, the kind that lasts, isn't about avoiding pain. It's about surviving it. Learning from it. Choosing to stay when every part of you wants to run. The next few weeks were slow. Deliberate. We didn't rush anything. I didn't move back in right away. We went to counseling, separately and together. We talked about everything we had buried for years. The missed opportunities. The silent disappointments. The places we had failed each other long before the ultimate betrayal. It was brutal. Exhausting. Some nights, I sat in my tiny rented apartment and wondered if I was an idiot for even trying. But then Emma would call me to tell me about a test she aced. Or Noah would show up at my door with a picture he drew, all of us together, smiling. And I would remember. One evening, after a particularly rough counseling session, Melanie and I sat in the car outside her house. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Finally, she turned to me. "Do you think we'll make it?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. I thought about it. Really thought. And then I said the most honest thing I could. "I don't know." Her face crumpled. "But I'm willing to try," I added. "If you are." She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I am," she whispered. And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. Months passed. Seasons changed. It wasn't perfect. We fought. We stumbled. There were days I wanted to give up. Days she did too. But slowly, painfully, something new began to grow in the ruins of what we had destroyed. Not the same marriage. Something different. More honest. More fragile. And somehow, more real. One night, as I tucked Emma into bed, she looked up at me with those big, wise eyes. "Daddy," she said seriously, "you and Mommy are doing better." I smiled, feeling a lump rise in my throat. "We're trying," I said. She grinned sleepily. "Trying is good." I kissed her forehead, lingering a little longer than usual. Out of the mouths of babes. Later, sitting alone on the back porch, I looked up at the stars. I thought about forgiveness. About how everyone talks about it like it's a one-time act, a clean, shining moment of absolution. But the truth is, forgiveness is messy. It's not a switch you flip. It's 1,000 tiny choices you make every day. To stay. To listen. To hope. As the cool night air brushed my face, I closed my eyes and whispered into the darkness. "I forgive you. Not just Melanie. But myself. For all the ways I had failed. For all the ways I had stayed hurt. For all the times I had been too scared to believe that broken things could still be beautiful. Our story wasn't a fairy tale anymore. But it was ours. Bruised. Bloody. Brave. And somehow, still worth writing. One day at a time.